Good morning. Or is it afternoon? Well, it's morning for us, but you might get this in the afternoon. So, hi. Welcome to Flora.
Ulysses by DiCamillo.
And she is reading her comic books, and her mom doesn't really like them.
No.
But she has superheroes in her comic books, and she's learning in the back of the comic book. There's like things to do when you don't know what to do. And so she's using the advice section of the comic books to figure out how to make Ulysses the most potential superhero that she can without her mother trying to kill him. That's right. So today, as we read, we are going to be reading dialogue, because noticing dialogue is so important to the story, because you figure out who says it, and then you figure out how do they say what they say. Like when the parents were screaming back and forth yesterday.
Screaming?
They were, and it was very tense. They were shouting, and they said shouted. So that's how I knew they were shouting. Chapter 25, Seal Blubber. Blubber. What is blubber? Well, blubber might be a little bit like this stuff here from too much. Never mind. They scream. Flora's father's car seats smelled like butterscotch and ketchup.
Ew.
Yeah, ketchup's okay, butterscotch is okay, but I'm not sure how it would feel about them being together. And Flora was in the back seat where the smell of the butterscotch and the ketchup was most powerful. She had a Bootsy Boots shoebox with Ulysses in it on her lap, and she was feeling car sick even though the car wasn't even moving yet. She was also feeling the tiniest bit overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is when like the world is so like, incredibly expecting too much of you, and you're like, you need a little fresh air. So I'm wondering why she's feeling overwhelmed. I'm wondering what's going on with that. And how did she get the squirrel out of the house in a shoebox? And what deal did her dad have to cut with her mom? All right, let's look. Things in general were pretty confusing. For instance, here was Ulysses sitting in a shoebox, knowing that there was a shovel in the trunk of the car and that the man driving the car had been instructed to whack him over the head with the shovel, and the squirrel didn't look worried or afraid. He looked happy. So that's why she is overwhelmed. And then there was Flora's mother, the person who had given Flora the shoebox. Oh, okay. So that's how he ended up in a shoebox. That explains my answers to my questions. That gives me more information. It doesn't tell us, but we could see it in our head. To protect the little friend on his journey, we'll just put him in this washcloth in here as a comfortable blanket. She was standing at the door, smiling and waving goodbye to them as if she weren't truly a murder-planning arch-nemesis. Remember, nemesis is enemy. Talk about the darkness of 10,000 hands. Nothing was as it seemed. Flora looked down at the squirrel, and of course he was what he seemed. He wasn't what he seemed either, and that was a good thing, an incandisto thing. Remember, he's the superhero. Flora felt a shiver of belief, of possibility passing through her. Her parents had no idea what kind of squirrel they were dealing with. Her father put the car in reverse. As he backed out of the driveway, Flora saw William Spiver standing in Tootie's front yard. He was looking up at the sky. He turned his head slowly in the direction of the car. His glasses flashed in the sun. Remember, is he really just a boy next door? Really? Hey, Laura, can you shut the door for me? Laura, can you shut the door for me, please? Thank you. That will help us from being interrupted.
Flora sounds like Flora.
Thank you. Whoops. I think the wind took it. It is getting windy, isn't it? He backed out of the driveway. Tootie appeared. She was waving. one of those pink gloves, as if it were a flag of surrender. "Stop the car!" she shouted. So, quotes, it's dialogue. "Stop the car!" Exclamation point. She shouted. It's not "stop the car." Right? When you want somebody to stop the car, you get like all excited. You wave whatever you have in your hand, even if it's not a flag or stop sign. "Step on the gas," Flora said to her father. Two different things going on. She did not want to talk to Tootie, and she definitely did not want to talk to William Spiver. She did not want to see herself reflected in his dark glasses, and she had her own thoughts about the random and confusing nature of the universe. She did not need his. Also, she was in a hurry. There was a murder to stop, a superhero to mentor, villains to vanquish, means get rid of, darkness to eradicate. That means fix, like to make it light again, not dark. She couldn't waste time trading stupid thoughts with William Spiver. "Flora Bell!" shouted William Spiver, almost as if he were reading her mind. "I've had some interesting thoughts." Is he good or bad? We don't know. You think he's good? Are you predicting it? We don't really have evidence of him being good or bad. We only have what Flora's thinking and feeling.
His eye.
He's covering his eyes.
So he's not actually blind.
No, not actually, because Aunt Tootie would be. Aunt Tootie's kind of like not playing into that part of him. He ran toward the car and fell into the bushes. "Great Aunt Tootie, I need your assistance!" he shouted. "What in the world is going on?" said her father, and he slammed on the brakes. "It's just a temporarily blind boy," said Flora, "and Miss Tickman from next door. She's his aunt, his great aunt. Never mind, it doesn't make any difference. Keep going." But it was too late. Tootie had helped William Spiver out of the bushes, and the two of them were walking toward the car. William Spiver was smiling. "So the dad can't just drive off." "Hello," her father called out to them. "I'm George Buckman. How do you do?" Flora's father introduced himself to everyone all the time, even if the person was somebody he already met. It was an annoying and extremely persistent habit. We are getting to know the father. Annoying and persistent. "Hello, sir," said William Spiver. "I am William Spiver. I would like to speak to your daughter, Flora Bell." "I don't have time to talk to you right now, William Spiver," said Flora. "Great Aunt Tootie, can you assist me? Will you take me to Flora's side of the vehicle? Please excuse me while I escort this extremely disturbed and neurotic child to the other side of the car." The aunt called the boy disturbed and neurotic. The aunt is not very kind with her words. But she's doing it anyways. Certainly, said Flora's father. And then he said to absolutely no one, "George Buckman, how do you do?" Flora sighed. She looked down at Ulysses, considering the human beings he was surrounded by, believing in a squirrel seemingly like an increasingly reasonable plan of action. "I want to apologize," said William Spiver, who was now standing beside her window. "For what?" said Flora. "It wasn't the worst poetry I've ever heard." "Oh," said Flora. "Also, I'm sorry that I wouldn't take my glasses off when you asked me to." "Take them off now," she said. "I can't," said William. "They've been glued to my head by evil forces beyond my control." Could glasses be glued to your head?
No.
Ever?
If you glue them to your head.
By evil forces.
No. They are.
William Spiver, what is he thinking?
He just doesn't want to take it.
"You lie," said Flora. "Yes. No, I don't. I do. I'm engaging in hyperbole. It seems as if the glasses have been glued to my head. Actually," he lowers his voice. So now we know he's not shouting, right? Actually, I'm afraid that if I take my glasses off, the whole world will unravel. And that means fall apart. That's stupid, says Flora. There are bigger things to worry about.
You said the ST word. So?
I didn't say it. Flora said it. Flora, shame on you.
Well, you said it. But you said it first.
Flora realized that she was going to say something to William Spiver that she had not intended to say. The words were out of her mouth before she could even stop them, and she whispered, "Do you know what an arch nemesis is?"
Yes.
"Of course I do," William whispered back. "Right. Well, Ulysses has got one. It's my mother." William's eyebrows rose up above his dark glasses. Flora was pleased to note that he looked properly surprised and shocked. "Speaking of Ulysses," interrupted Tootie, "I have some poetry that I would like to recite to him." "Are you sure this is the right time for a poetry rendition? Recitation?" said William. Ulysses sat up straighter in his bootsy boots box. He looked at Tootie and nodded. "I was moved by your poetry," said Tootie to the squirrel. Ulysses puffed out his chest. "He's very prideful, the opposite of humble." "And I have some poetry that I would like to recite to you in honor of the recent transformation in your life." Tootie put a hand on her chest. "This is Ricky," she said. "You sent out beyond your recall. Go to the limits of your longing. Embody me, flare up like a flame, and make big shadows that I can move in." I don't even understand what I am reading. Ulysses stared up at Tootie, his eyes bright. "Flare up like flames," said Flora's father from the front seat. "That is moving, yes. That is quite lovely. Flaring up like a flame. Thank you so much. We have to be on our way now." "But will you return?" said William Spiver. Dun, dun, dun. So here is Tootie reading her poetry
Wait, I want to see. I really want to know.
in the car
I want to look. Wait,
to Flora.
I want to see.
Flora looked up and saw William Spiver's words hanging in the air above him like a small, tattered flag.
What are you doing? Oh, it's mine. Oh.
That's her reading the poetry. "I'm just spending the afternoon with my father, William Spiver," she said. "It's not like I'm heading off to South Pole. Terrible things can happen to you." Had done an extensive piece on what it would be like if you were stranded at the South Pole. Their advice could be summed up in 3 simple words: eat, seal, blubber.
Oh.
So that's the name of the chapter.
Oh.
That's what that has to do with anything.
That's what the kid looks like.
It was astonishing to really what people could live through. Flora felt cheered up all of a sudden just thinking about eating seal blubber and doing impossible things, surviving the odds that were against her and her squirrel. They would figure out a way to outwit the arch nemesis. They would triumph over the shovel and the sack, and they would triumph together like Dolores and Incandisto. I'm glad you're not going to the South Pole, Flora Belle. Flora's father cleared his throat. "George Buckman," he said. "How do you do?" "Oh, it was nice to meet you, sir," said William Spiver. "Remember those words," said Tootie. "Flare up like flames," said Flora's father. Wait a minute. Is there something going on here? "I was speaking to the squirrel," said Tootie. "Oh, of course," said Flora's father. "My apologies. The squirrel. Yes, of course." Did
You can tell.
Flora's father think that William Spiver's aunt was saying a poem to him? A moving poem? Like a heart-warming poem?
You can tell.
"I will see you again," said William Spiver. "Beware the arch nemesis." "I will see you again," said William Spiver. "We're off to fight evil." "I will see you again," said William Spiver. Poor William, he keeps repeating himself and she doesn't answer him. She repeats herself in different words, though. He seemed to so stuck on the idea of seeing her again that Flora didn't have the heart to tell him that he was waving in the wrong direction. I will see you again. It's literally, I will see you. And then figuratively, I will see you tomorrow.
Wait, what?
Chapter 26, Spies Don't Cry.
What?
Will be tomorrow.